In Kumlan Ablat Gemara, this Gemara is Erev Rosh Hashanah. We are up to Daf Tzadik Tes, and we were discussing in the Mishnah the size of a home. And one of the points of the Mishnah is that the height, even though the houses were pretty small, was extremely small, but the height of their ceilings was equivalent of adding the width and the length of the room and divide that by in half, similar to the Beis Hamikdash. And so we started to discuss over here about the length of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Kodesh, and then we mentioned there the L'chayda by Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is part of the Beis Hamikdash, and we know that was 30 amos high. Why does the pasuk say it was only 20 amos? So we say it comes to teach you, just like the 20 amos high was empty, there was nothing in that space. So too, even at the 10 amos below, where the Aron was there was nothing in that space. As we learned in Gemara Yuma, Mokum ha'Aron einam in Amida. The Aron did not take up any room, and we're up to Gemara Tzadik Tes Amar Aleph. We'll start again 3 lines from the top of the page. This supports Rab Levi. Rab Levi said, this is a tradition we have from our ancestors, that Mokum Aron, the space that the Aron took up, the Kruvim, in the Gemara Yuma, Kruvim is not mentioned. But the Kruvim einam in Amid is not part of the measurement. Are we talking about the Kruvim on top of the Aron? Then makes sense. But now also talking about our Gemara is going to be focusing on the Kruvim that Shlomo Melech put into the Beis Hamikdash, which were 10 amos high. They were positioned on the floor, and each kruv had wingspan of 10 amos, 5 amos on each side. And the question is, what happened to the body of the kruvim? What happened to you have wings coming out of this child and the boy and the girl? What, that doesn't count? So that's Mokum Aron. I mean, the goof of these kruvim are not included. That's what the Gemara wants to say right now. The Gemara will ask a number of questions on that. Tanya Nami Hochlet the Braisa that Orange also Moshe yesterday Rebbe Chesed Amel Choru. You measure on both sides, you'll have 10 amos, and yet the Oran itself had to be 2.5 amos wide and 1.5 amos long. So the Oran took up was very finite, and yet it took him the room. Chesed explains this is a manifestation of the Shechina, that it's not Gvul, it's not Bli Gvul, it's not finite, nor it's infinite. It's a fusion of both. Omar Rabinoi, Omar Shmuel. Rabinoi said the name of Shmuel. And we cannot even imagine what that means, how that's possible. It's not even in the realm of Seichel. The Kruvim in the Nation. It says in Pasuk, how he said the Chamesh Amma is kind of a Kruvach. 5 amas was the width of one wing. The Chamesh Amma is kind of Kruvashain. The other wing is also 5 amas. And total was Esed amas, 10 amas, make choice Knofah, If you go for one tip of the wings, so the other tip is 10 amas. So where's the body? So the body was Benes Hayomdin. We say, where's the body? Now, I'm going to ask a number of questions on that. I'll say there's no proof. First of all, Maskal by asked, who said that the goof was right in the center and therefore the wings came out like hands? Maybe the wings were behind. Like you know, the picture you think, you see the wings are behind like a bird. And therefore the body was not part of the 10 amos span. What's the nest over here? No big deal. That's a bias question. Maskal Rava. Everybody comes in and attack. Come along, Rava. He has a question. Who said that both wings were like a straight line? Maybe one wing's here, a set of wings here, the other wings were here. They overlapped. So who said there was a net? And the goof was there. Who said there's anything about a nest? Maskal Who says a straight line? Maybe it was a diagonal. And maybe it was a diagonal. And number 3. And therefore, the diagonal we know is one on the fifth, so there's much more space. It's not 20 amos. 20 amos is only this way, but if we went diagonally, the room is much more than 20 amos. Next, maybe when we say 20 amos was the bottom, the base, because the stones were very wide, so the space was 20 amos. But as we learned yesterday, the walls can taper in, and therefore, if you go a little bit higher, where the wings, the tips of the wings were stretching out over there, it might have been 22 amos. So the goofim were also there. No big mess. Maybe the wings, if he would have stretched it out, would have been 10 amos or 5 amos each. But maybe the wings actually turned. Who said the wings were straight? Maybe the wings, curved a bit. By saying also Yadayu, in other words, they're saying the wings were like hands. There's a goof here, and the wings were not in the back, but the wings were sticking out like a hand. Sahai is a question, how can it be 10 amas and then 10 amas away with the gufim? But the wing was 10 amas if you would open it up, but it unfurled it. But you didn't. It curved a little bit here, it curved a little bit here. So actually, if we went in a straight line, it might have been only 8 amas wide, the wings. Okay, that's what he says. Maskar Rashi. Maybe they were sitting and intertwined. They were like mamish sitting right on top of each other, back of each other, and they're overlapping. And again, the gufim were there as well. The Gemara Kate said, how were they standing? We have the Gemara Yuma, Rabbi Yechon, Rabbi Loza, Chadam. One of them says, Pneim ish el achiv. One of them says that the Kruvim were facing each other, which by Moshe Rabbeinu, it says Taka, they were facing each other. Chadam, Pneim lebayis. That actually they were not facing each other, they were facing the house. Machlek is whether they were facing the front door, the mizrach, or they were facing the back, the maidav. The back wall, Kesmaravi. Well, the mandam, the one who said Pneim, the one who said that they were facing each other, which is by the Mishnah, that's how it describes in the Mishnah. The Kruvim, it says in the pasuk, Pneim Labai. It says there by Shlomo Melech Beis Hamikdash, it says that the Pneim was facing Labayis, like Kasha. Kan Bisman, she's throw ice in the church, they do the right thing, they're facing each other. And remember, we should show the Ruchi Baschen, they used to show how they how they was like the Eden by Oile Regel. And Kam Bisman She'ein Yisrael Oisin Tzonish Makom. They don't do the Ratzon Makom, they're facing the bias. This is a famous question. Actually, the Rebbe Sitcher explains it nicely, but the Rishonim asked this question. How come the Gemara Yuma says when Tzitzis came in, he saw them facing, or when they came in, they said they saw facing each other. This is a nation, and this is what they have, this boy and girl facing each other. Some want to say actually it's not that was what he saw was not the Kruvim. From the Rishonim want to say what he saw is not the Kruvim on the Oren. What he saw was it was also etched out on the wall or on the Pareiches, the Kruvim, and that's what they saw facing each other. Not the Kruvim on the Oren that we're talking about this nest. Yeah, so this was by his issue when maybe they came in and they saw the Oren. Even by Sheni, maybe Melech Kruvim there. There's no Oren to speak of. Yeah. So what do you call it? So how come? So the Rebbe explains that the Ritva says a very modern thing. The Eibishter made a nest to hurt the Eden. Made a nest. Exactly. So he made a nest. And this is what that he to show that they should mock the Eden. That that this is what you do in the base of Mikdash. And they should make a nest for that. The Rebbe Marash and the Maimon asks, why did Eibishter make a nest that Titus struck a knife into the Pareiches and blood came out? Eibishter made a nest for what purpose? Yeah, what was the point of that? But looking at the Lashon the Ritva, the Eibishter made it just like he made the nest of the Kruvim. He could have made a nest by Titus that the blood should come out just to hurt the Eden more. But Mashra actually said that what Eibishter was trying to show is that by a person the blood circulates through the entire body. This unites the entire body from the head down to the toes. It's all the same blood flowing through. The Eibishter wanted to show despite the Churban and the Golos and everything else, the Eden are like blood, and that they're all united by Achdus. So like the Rebbe said that from here we see that Golos actually has a Mailan. Superficially, it looks like a terrible thing happening. But the Pnimius, this is all preparation for Bias Mashiach, and greater things are happening, great Gulim that are too great to come down in this world in a normal way. Therefore, it looks like in the way that it appears. And the Haraya, the best proof is, because if Golos is basically a kapara for all the Avedas you did, then as Golos moves on, we should the Golos should get weaker and weaker. And we see Fakir, the Golos are getting stronger and stronger. A Holocaust didn't happen back then. And so the Helam has to get stronger all the time, which means it's all part of preparation of Mashiach. And as we're getting closer to the greatest Giluyim of Mashiach, therefore, Bechitzonius, it pays darker than usual. Be louder. Enough. Okay. I understand. Well, the man down by playing Labaye, the one who said what? That they were facing the Labayes. What's he do the other puzzle? Was it clear in the puzzle that they were facing each other? So he says over here, the Mitzadats do they were sort of on an angle. The bodies were one way and the face was facing a little bit the other way. So therefore, they were saying that the body was basically facing Labayes, and the head was a little bit tilted towards each other. Uncle says, Kerubim, what's Kerubim? Maiset Tzatzuim. Hein, that the maisim of young children, umitzudadim paneim, and their faces are tilted a little bit at an angle. Kitalmid haniftim rabbi. Just like a Talmud, when he goes away from his Rebbe, doesn't walk with his back to the Rebbe, doesn't also walk with his face to the Rebbe because you're going to bump into the wall. So you're on an angle. That you, like your body is that way and your head is turned toward your Rebbe. So the same thing over here. Yeah, but here's a tree means like youngsters, little kids. Yeah. We said no. Keruv is we had more sukkah. Keruv is keravia, like a little child. The Rambam says it's like a kid leaving class. I don't know when we should do that, but you didn't want to run out of class. Like in the Hasina, they ran away, and you walked out backwards. Okay, Mishnah. So continuing to talking about selling, if you're selling a product. Now we're talking about Mishi Yeshle Boy Lifnim Mebeisich Haveda. You sold a boy that's that's you have to go through the person's house, the seller's house, to get to the boy. Now, but and you have access to my house. Either we follows Rabbi Kiva, remember a long time ago, that moicher ba'ayin yofa moicher, when you sell something, you're being generous. So the way to get there is also included in the sale. Or from the case, even according to Chachamim, but you spoke out explicitly. I'm selling you also the right of way. But just because I get right away, it doesn't mean you can walk through my house at all hours of the day, all hours of the night. No boss. You go when it's a normal time of the day, and you leave a normal time of the day. And number one. Number two is doesn't give him the right to bring his behemoth through the house to go to the bird. You want go in, get a bucket of water, and bring it out to your animal. Bring it out to your animal outside. But they both can put a lock by the door that leads you to the bird. Sign the owner of the bird. The owner of the bird does it so that the guy in the house doesn't go steal his water because he bought the bird, and he can't monitor it all the time. Doesn't have any cameras. The guy in the house, he wants to know what right does he have to lock the door, and why should he lock the door? As if to say to the balaboy, you can't go there unless I'm here to open the door. What's the point of that? So you will ask. First of all, it's a lock. They're both locking the door, the entrance of the bird. Okay, the owner of the bird has to protect, make sure that his water is not stolen. But the owner of the house, what is he putting a lock? If the other guy constantly walks in the house when the owner of the house is not there, people will suspect that some kind of dalliance is going on between the wife. This way, he can't get it. The only one has the key is the husband, who'll have to wait around till the husband comes. So therefore won't be chshad. And he knows the guy tells him, "I'll be home every day after 5 o'clock." So he knows that he's no point in going before that. Next Mishnah. Let's say again, either partners or heirs or. I sold you the inner garden, and the only way to get this to the outer garden, so I gave you a way to get there as well. Again, just because I gave it to you, we didn't spell out all the rules. These are the rules automatically understood. You go in the normal hours of the day. You cannot bring tagin. If you have an inner garden, you can't bring a bunch of fremde people, strangers, to come in and to sell the products to them. You want take a bushel of a thing and bring it outside to them. Don't use it as a shortcut. Going through my field to get to your garden, because from there you're going to go somewhere else. You can't use it as a shortcut. I only gave you the right to go through my garden to get to your garden and do whatever you have to do for the sake of the garden, not for your own personal sake. And that particular path that I allowed you to go belongs still to the outer garden. Therefore, he has a right to plant it if he doesn't mind planting it. And because you're not going to go there very often, you're not bringing strangers in there, so I'm not worried that you're going to ruin my whatever I grow there, my crop. If I gave you a road, I said, you know what, I'm going to give you on the long defense. For example, we had a dispute, and we went to court, and the court arbitrated, and we agreed to give you a path, but not in the middle of my garden, but the very edge of my garden. Then the whole idea was edge of garden is you're not really going through my garden, so therefore you can go whenever you want. You can bring friends as well because nothing's going to grow there. But one thing you cannot do, it's only what things that benefit you directly from the garden. But to use the garden as a means to an end, as a shortcut to get somewhere else, that I never gave you permission. But this one here, you cannot plant because the idea this is mamish a pathway. So I think about it. If a guy said, amma base. I'm going to sell you this little canal for irrigation, so that you can get from the river that's far over there, go through my property to bring it to your properties. I'm giving an amma. Now, generally speaking, it says that the reason why it's called an amas hamayim is because it's wide an amma. Okay, that's the general thing. But here we're saying more, it's not so posh. How wide should it be? Noisle beis amas. You give him 2 amas l'toicha. And then la'akfer. Not only give him 2 amas in the middle to make the water a channel for the water, by giving another amma each side in case that, let's say the embankment falls down, you can dig from both sides to build a wall or something so that the amma should exist. Tais says according to this pshat, so why is it called an amma? Because it was an amma deep. It wasn't an amma wide, it was an amma deep. But there's another gis in the Gemara here, where the other gis is we're not discussing at all how wide the channel is. We're discussing the idea of giving you an extra amma on both sides of the channel in case the wall collapses. But how wide is the amma? The standard width, which is 1 amma. So that's the machlekes they're showing me. How do we understand this Gemara here? The Ram actually brings both shots. Amma, if he tells that to him, Amma base hakilain. Our basic killing is where you have water, like a trough for the animals, and I'm allowing you to go ahead and take in water to use it, for laundering or for drinking your animals. So it's much smaller than this irrigation that you need you need a lot more water going to irrigate your fields. So in this case, I will give you 1 amma again. 2 gesais. This gives says I give you an amma width for the water and then a half an amma for the wall embankment because it's a smaller, narrower thing, or you don't. We're not talking. You take out the words amach as a teicha. We're not talking about the teicha. We're just talking about the sidewalls. And this. So what happens to this extra space you give him on the sides of this water that you allow him? That in case there's an embankment, can anybody plant on those sides? But Rabbi Yudah Mishmor Bala, so that known in the field, is allowed to plant a sul bemis in his property. I'm only giving you the rights to the sand. If you need sand to build a wall, then you can. He says, Rabbi Yehuda's name says, Bal Hasoda Zoydim, you can plant seeds. And Nachman says, no, you can only plant trees. The difference in a tree and a seed is a seed, right away the roots spread everywhere. And by a night and a tiyad, what happens is the roots go down, and then later on they start being mispasha, they spread everywhere. So Mount Zoydim, you can plant seeds. Koshke night, sure you can plant trees. Because the seed that's going to go into your amma, you're allowed to. You can only plant trees, but not allowed to plant seeds. You're going to weaken the walls of this particular channel that he did. What happens if the amasa mayim and you don't have enough sand in that amma or half amma around the channel? What happens then? That you could take more sand from that very same field of that owner. Why? Because we know that what happened, the wall collapsed. Where did the sand from that wall go? Somewhere in the field. It was deposited along in this field. So you gave him back sand. You could take sand. So the sand ended up in this field. Why can't the other guy say your water sent away the sand and therefore you have no right to take more sand than I granted you originally? You're not giving me back the sand. The water chased down. You're right. Who knows where the sand was deposited, whether on this field or somewhere else. But on this condition, this is the arrangement that we have. That if I don't have enough sand, sufficient sand, I can take more from your field. Back to the Mishnah, we're talking about rights. We're talking about unspecified rights. What do we expect? Let's say there was a public access way through your property, through your field. But you couldn't stand it. It's right in the middle of the field. People they're constantly walking. You have no privacy, or maybe they're sometimes ruining the things on the side of the road of this path. So you say, you know what? I'm going to give you along the edge, along the boundary. I'm going to give you the same shetach, and I want to take back the path that you guys are walking. So the Mishnah says, Masha Nasa Nasan, that's so nice of you. We'll keep that new path you gave us along the edge, but the Shaloi Loyagir, you don't get back what your original thing. Derech Hayoch, I will soon explain why. Derech Hayochi Daldamas. When you say I'm giving you personally a path, how wide should the path be in my field for Amos, even though we didn't specify? Derech Harabim, if I'm giving a path to the public, what's a public access way? Sheish Esei Amos, you need 16 Amos. Derech HaMelech, if we talk about the Derech HaMelech, We know 16 amas. We're going to in Shabbos. We learned that a width of a road is 16 amas because the Argolis and all that. What about Derech HaMelech? If a person says, not it's we're not talking about Derech HaMelech, the king itself, because the king do whatever he wants. But if a person makes up, I'm giving you a pathway like a king would have been given, then ain't lo shir. There's no dimensions because a king can take whatever belongs to Mars and Hedge and the machlik. It's what a king can do. Derech HaKever, if let's say this is where I'm giving you an access way to go to a cemetery. Ain lo shir. Over here also, there's no limit for 16 amas. You want everyone to be able to follow the coffin comfortably. Hamamid dayone hamamid. What about hamamid? You'll see this mamodas by a funeral. We have a thing called mamodas in Shabbos. So interesting over here. We do it before you bury. It's actually machlekes rishonim if you do it before the kavura or after the kavura. I remember we were bachrim and some we always used to come back and then go 7 different places. Exactly. Here for whatever you're going to do that. Here, everything my mother's generally done right before, and that's it. I know, but that's called my mother's. That is actually my mother's. Yeah, but only the only person who says it is where I was leading. Yeah. Okay. So we'll soon see what the Maimon is and what the idea of the Maimon is. Fascinating. Why we do Maimon. But you give him a space of Beis Abba Kavim. Well, we know that the Mishkan was 50 amas by 50 amas, and that's a saw. So saw is, remember we learned, is 6 kavim. So it's, the Mishkan is 2 saws, so therefore it's 100 by 50. But 1 saw is 50 by 50. And 4 kavim is 2/3 of that. So it's 33 1/3 by 50. That's the space you give when you sold something and you say, okay, I'm going to give you a right to go to the basic quarters. I'm giving you a place to do your maimed. That's how much. That's how big a tract of land you have to offer. We'll soon see. That's in tomorrow's daf, which you're going to do in about 2 minutes. Says the Gemara, why do you say he doesn't get his road back? If I gave you another path there along the edge, why can't I get my road back? The path that you guys taking. The Gemara, let him take a stick, but let him sit there. Because right now we think, min hadin, I did a chalipin. I swapped it. This is my field. Nobody paid me for it. You guys go through my field, you have access. So I was very generous. Fine. So now I have the right to swap it to that. So min hadin, that's Taki road. No, but people don't want to listen. But we're learning more hamaniach that Ovedin Lanavshe, where there's a pseid in moment. If there's a loss of money, you don't have to, and you don't have time to go to Bezin, you can go take the law in your own hands. So why can't you take a stick and sit there on the road in the middle of the fast? You can't come anymore. So let's prove from here. That the Gemara Maniach is not right. That you cannot take the law in your own hands, even when your harm said right, and being causing a loss. We are worried. The 3 answers the Gemara. That is really explaining the name of Rava. You know why you cannot take it originally back? It's Rabban. Shema Yitel and Derek Kauton. If he knows that he can move it and change it, or let's say another guy bought the field, and the first owner is the one who let the public go through, and now he bought the field and he doesn't want the public going through. So he'll give them a road full of rocks and whatever is difficult, thorn bushes, and everything there. We're worried because like Zeta, even if he gave them a good path, you cannot. The people have a choice to go which way they want to go, the original one or the new one you gave them. No, you're talking about a case where you gave them a terrible path. Only then do we say that you don't forfeit, that you don't lose, they don't lose the access away the middle one. But if you gave them a very good path, the it's a good chalipin. That's opinion number 2. Rav Ashi says, not because of Gzeda, even Rav Ashi and Halacha will agree with the first opinion. Not because of Gzeda, not because you gave a bad path, but every path is bad to somebody and good to somebody else. So, for example, if it's right in the middle, it's good for everybody. When you put it on the edge, it's much better for those who live on that side of the field. But the people who live on the other side, now they have to go a much longer distance. So, therefore, every road is bad. It's always bad. It's good for one person, but it's bad for somebody else. And that's why you cannot make this chalipa. So minadin, you had no right to take away their access way. Why can't he tell them, okay, so now that you're telling me you're continuing with the original access way, give me back my new road. Because the Mishnah says what he gave, plus have access way. Let him say, give me back I gave you a road. The only reason why I gave it to you thinking is that you're going to give me back my access way. But you're not giving me back my access way. Give me back the new road that I gave you. Get back to me. What's the pshat? Why does he lose it? Gemara will say like this. First thing Gemara thinks, maybe Hamani Rabelezi, maybe the author of our Mishnah Rabelezi. Tani we learn. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda said in Rabelezi that Rabbim Shebiru Derech Lasum. It didn't make a kinyan, nothing else. They decided, you know what, we're going to start walking through this particular road. Masha biru to biru. It becomes the public property. What the rabbi, because it's a rabbi, they have a right to steal. Omar Rav Gidl Omar Rav. So we'll have two ways of understanding it. So Rav Gidl says the name of Rav. That's time that they started coming to the field. They used to have a road through this field. They just don't remember where it is. Over time, it's sort of forgotten. So because they have a right already to this field, they can decide where that right should be. But Oisasod in that field, and therefore they can decide where the right should be, and that's why they're going there.
Tracks throughout the countryside in England. There were these little pathways. Some go right through the middle of fields and things. But because it was this way for thousands of years, there's a law that the farmers, whoever owns the land, has to allow.
In Australia, you have it. Access way, if I have an easement, 15 years, that nobody claimed it. You know, there was somebody's go use it. It becomes whatever public property. Public use a certain
alleyways.
Whatever. Yeah, 50, I think the law here is 15 years. Now, normally, if you were an individual person and I knew I had a right by you, I would have to go to Bezdin. We have a dispute. Over here, the Ram says very nicely, a rabbim, they become the Bezdin, because who is the rabbim? Who's going to take who to court? How do you take the rabbim to court? Who are you going to take? So therefore, he says that the rabbim, if they decide to go ahead and use this road, they become the Bezdin on the spot. And they decide that this is going to be where we're going to make the path. We used to have a path of the field. We can't remember what it is. We're going to use it right here. Okay. The problem is there's no way there because they don't remember where it is. But yeah, interesting. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And our Mishnah, since in our Mishnah you gave it to them. Here, so Maduch Rabbi Lezer's case where they moved in, we say that they have a right to that road. Surely in our Mishnah where I gave them the Chatchila, this access way, and I gave them this new access way. Surely yes, it becomes theirs. I can't, even though I didn't get back my old access way. I cannot take back the new one. I gave it to them voluntarily. There's another Rabbah, a version of Rab, where Rabbi Huna say Rab. The halacha is not like Rabbi Lezer. Now, if it's talking about a case where there used to be a field, a path in this field, why would and Rabbi Lezer says if the rabbin decided to go back and use the path, they can. Why would the Rab say that Allah is not Rabbi Lezer? The only way to understand that the Rab says that Allah is not Rabbi Lezer is we take Rabbi Lezer. They never had a path in this field, and they decided to go through this field. And Rab said, even though Rabbi Lezer says you can, the Allah is not like him. Even though both the name of Rab, it can be both. Whoever learned this didn't learn this. The time am I. So what's Takib Pshat? So what's Pshat in our Mishnah, according to Rabbi Huna, since the public decided that they want to use this field, on what basis? What kinyan do they have? Meitza Sheikh Zik by Rabbi also the calculate that in Rabbi Huna's version is not Biru. In the first version is they decided we're going to use this. They made no kinyan. So it must be talking about a case where they already had a road, had a pathway in the field. Rabbi Huna says, I hold Rabbi Lezer is talking about where Tik Ziku, they made a kinyan chazaka. They made a kinyan chazaka. They made some kind of a kinyan. And the owner knew about it, and he didn't protest. The moment he didn't protest when chazaka, it became the public's. That's what Rabbi Lezer is saying, according to Rabbi Huna. That made, the time I should Rabbi Huda says, made so what we're trying to understand is not Rabbi Lezer. We're trying to understand this. So according to Rabbi Huna, our Mishnah cannot be Rabbi Lezer because our Mishnah is halacha. Rabbi Lezer is not the halacha. They just because Rabbi Lezer clearly says biru. Sorry, Rabbi Lezer clearly says biru. They didn't even make a kinyan nothing. We'll soon see what the kinyan is going to Rabbi Lezer. So in our Mishnah, they got the new road. What did they get the new road for? Because they're talking about they actually made a chazaka, like Rabbi Huda says. They made a chazaka. You gave us a new road, and you gave it to us, and we made a chazaka. That's it for fun. You can't be an Indian giver and take it back. Also the calcul. You can no longer ruin it. When it's a question, Rabbi Lezer, Rabbim, but my Rabbi Lezer says that Rabbim just decided to go through your field. What kinyan did they pass? According to Rabbi Huna, they never had a path, and yet they can do it. What kinyan? How are they kinyan? So the Gemara bihilucha, just by walking, traversing the field, they're kinyan with walking. Where do you find that walking is a kinyan? We know that not all podas v'goda. You have to physically do something, build a lock, till the soil. Tanya learned halabala arkolachva kana makim hiluchai. Just by walking up and down, you're kind of David Abelezer. And the Chachamim aimim ain hiluch mayakum. Hiluch is not a kinyan achi yachzik. You need to make a chazaka. Omar Abelezer, or do something that's common for that thing. We live in the house of a ger. You put your bed, your mattress there. That's a sign that you own about this. Amar Abelezer, my time at Abelezer, where did Abelezer know that walking is a kinyan? It says, Kum, he's halach. Hashem told Avraham Avinu, Kum, stand up, he's halach ba'aretz, go travel the land, la'argol rachel. Kilachot, then I gave it to you. I gave it to you. So we see clearly, Avraham was kind of, so according to Abelezer, he understood it that this was the kinyan for Avraham to be kind of Yisrael. And that's how Israel became ours. But Rabban said, no, there was no kinyan. The kinyan only took place when Yeshua came in, kinyan, kibbutz, Muhammad, whatever. It only came in then. Remember the two chazakas. One is Yeshua, and one was Ezra, as explains kibbutz rishon, kibbutz sheni. But you know why Avram walked the land? Mishum chavivusa de Avram. The Eibishter wanted to show his fondness to Avram, and he said, "This is what I'm going to give you, children. The should be easier to conquer for the children. What do you mean easier? How is it easier if Avram Avinu walked the land? So the Satan cannot be mekatrik, as Rambam says. He cannot say, "Hey, what right do the Eden have to Yisrael?" So he says here, by taking Avram and walking up and down the land, he showed that this land is meant to be belong to Eden, so the Satan therefore cannot complain. But the Rambam says two things. The Satan shouldn't be able to be mekatrig, and it shouldn't give an opening lebal midas hadin. L'chayla bal midas hadin, maybe a people who's saying, what right do you have to Israel? What are you coming in and chasing a Canaan? So we'll say, what do you mean right? Avram Avinu was very promised, and he walked up and down the land. Some of the Rishonim want to say that Avram was kind of the land, not just he walked with Chaviv. Chaviv means, what do Chaviv is? Just like we say a rule, Amirase Ligvoya. This is a chiddush of some of the Rishonim in Kedushin. Just like we say Amirase Ligvoya Kimisirase Lehedit. When you give I make a kinyan with another person, Mashiach, Masir, I give it to him. It's a kinyan. But when it comes to Heged, it's just my promise, my word. Amirase Ligvoya Kimisirase Lehedit. So the Rishonim say Amirase Migvoya. If the Eibishter said to Avram, I'm giving you the land, it's as if he was kind of it. It works both ways. Just like Ligvoya is Migvoya, which the big Chiddush, because Gemara never says that. So this is a Amaras and Migvoya. Others say it's like a promise, and when the Gemara says in Hazov that when you sell somebody, I'm going to sell you something, you can always change your mind. But if it's a matana muetzes, a small matana, then you have to keep your word. For the Eibishter, everything has is a small matana, and therefore the Eibishter cannot. So therefore the Eibishter cannot change his mind. So Avraham wasn't kind of als kinyan, but the Eibishter cannot change his mind. Three different ways of understanding something more there. Telling more right. We'll just go through to that. That even though walking is not a kinyan, the pathway in the vineyard. What do you do with the pathway in the vineyard? The only thing you can do there is meant for walking. Nothing else you can do there. Then that's what you use. If that's the use of it, then walking is the way you kind it. How wide should this path be? Give him the that you can collect a whole bunch of vines on your shoulder and turn around and go back the other way. And that's how wide the road should be. It's us talking about there are walls there. Because there are walls there, it's how the Rambam takes a different use. You've got exactly the opposite. Because there are walls there, if you're going to turn around with long vines, you're going to bump into the wall. So I need a wider path. There's no wall there. They're just walking. No, when you walk 1 foot, another normal walking. I don't have to be very wide. Walk one way and then walk back the other way.